Ever get the feeling like you're reading a coded message? Like someone's hiding something in plain sight?
Yeah, you've been reading J.B. Priestley, haven't you?
Nailed it. An inspector calls. And today, we're not just summarizing the plot, we're cracking the code.
We're going deep,
Ugh.
unmasking how Priestley uses language to expose, well, let's just say some uncomfortable truths.
Exactly. And he does it so masterfully. Like a magician with words, he creates these characters, but he doesn't just give them lines, he gives them...
Voices, distinctive voices.
Yes. You can practically hear them coming to life and their personalities. Right there in every word choice.
It's like he's handing us a set of X-ray glasses. We can see right through their facades to their true selves.
Okay, so let's put on those X-ray glasses and take a look at the Burling family, shall we? Dinner at their place. Talk about a powder keg.
Oh, absolutely. A masterclass in denial and delusion. Let's start with the patriarch, Arthur Burling.
I built myself from the ground up.
Right. The self-made man who loves to hear the sound of his own voice, especially when it comes to business.
Oh, you can practically hear the champagne glasses clinking every time he talks about making his way in the world, or being in line for a knighthood.
Don't forget about how he dismisses the possibility of a war. Dramatic irony at its finest.
It's like, hello, World War I is just around the corner. You can't make this stuff up.
That's the brilliance of Priestley, though. He sets up these moments where the audience knows more than the characters, and we're left wondering, when will they wake up?
It's almost painful to watch, but also kind of satisfying. When Burling finally gets a taste of his own medicine.
Well, whether it's satisfying is debatable, but it definitely highlights the dangers of blind ambition and how it can cloud your judgment.
Totally. And this isn't just about some stuffy old play from 100 years ago. It's about all of us. Those moments when we're so focused on our own goals, our own desires, that we forget to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, it's a reminder to be a little less like Burling and a little more open to, well, reality.
All right, let's move on to someone a little less oblivious.
Ah, you want to go about Sheila?
Yes. She's fascinating because she starts off as this seemingly shallow socialite.
Remember that line? I feel engaged.
So perfect. Like being engaged is just another accessory.
Exactly. But then the inspector arrives, and it's like a crack appears in her perfectly polished facade.
And that crack just keeps getting wider and wider as the play goes on.
Right. Right. And you can trace her transformation through her language. She goes from using words like thrilling and pretty to...
Responsible, guilty, words that actually carry some weight.
Exactly. And it's not just about the words themselves, it's about the emotion behind them. Like when she confesses to getting Eva Smith fired from her job.
And if I could help her now, you can practically hear the regret in her voice.
And that, my friend, is the power of language. To evoke empathy, to make us confront our own actions, and maybe, just maybe, to inspire us to do better.
It's like realizing you're not just a bystander, you're actually part of the story.
Precisely. Sheila starts to understand that her actions have ripple effects, even if she couldn't see them at the time. Remember that line? But these girls aren't cheap labor, they're people.
Yeah, it's like a light bulb moment for her, and for the audience, too. Suddenly, we're forced to confront our own prejudices.
Because it's all too easy to dehumanize those we see as different, isn't it? To forget that there's a human being with hopes and dreams behind that label of factory worker or shop girl.
Speaking of shaking things up, let's talk about the inspector. This guy just strides into the Burling's perfect little world.
And turns it upside down?
Exactly. Like, who is this guy? He seems to know everything that's going on, even before they say it out loud.
It's almost like he's a Gobek otherworldly, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
Even his name, Ghoul.
Ooh, like ghoul. Okay, now that's just creepy.
Intentional, I'd say. Priestley wants us to question everything about the inspector. Is he a real detective? A figment of their guilty consciences?
Or something else entirely. Maybe he's a stand-in for the audience. The voice of morality that sees through their lies and holds them accountable.
Exactly. And his language reflects that. It's sharp, direct, almost unnerving in its calmness, especially when he drops those truth bombs like, we are responsible for each other.
Chills. It's like he's piercing through their carefully constructed facades and exposing their deepest secrets.
Which is, of course, exactly what he's doing. And that brings us to another one of Priestley's tools, the literary device.
Okay, so we've talked about language, but now we're getting into the really good stuff. The symbolism, the foreshadowing, all the little clues that Priestley sprinkles throughout the play.
Because he's not just telling a story, is he? He's engaging with us in a dialogue, inviting us to think critically about the world around us.
Exactly. And one of the most intriguing characters is one we never actually meet on stage, Eva Smith.
Ah, yes, the invisible woman at the heart of the play. A masterstroke by Priestley.
Because even though she's never physically present, her presence is everywhere.
Precisely. And the fact that she's gone by several different names throughout the play. Daisy Renton, Eva Smith, even just a girl.
It's like she represents all the nameless, faceless victims of social injustice.
Exactly. And the fact that she's dead from the very beginning, it forces us to confront the consequences of indifference, of turning a blind eye to those in need.
And then there's that whole mystery surrounding the inspector's true identity. Even at the end of the play, we're left wondering, who was he?
A question with no easy answers. Was he a real inspector? A figment of their imagination? A supernatural being?
It's like Priestley is saying, it doesn't really matter.
Because the point is, the inspector's message resonated with him, didn't it?
And it continues to resonate with us today. The idea that we are all connected and that our choices have consequences. But before we get too deep into that, let's talk about how Priestley uses foreshadowing to keep us on the edge of our seats. It's like those little breadcrumbs in a fairy tale, except instead of leading to a gingerbread house, they're leading to, well, a whole lot of uncomfortable truths.
And just when you think you figured it out, Priestley throws another twist. Like when Sheila casually mentions Gerald's absence the previous summer.
Right. At first, it seems like an insignificant detail, but then it all comes back around, doesn't it?
Like a time bomb ticking away in the background. And then, bam! It explodes when we discover the truth about Gerald and Daisy Renton.
It makes you realize that every word, every line in this play is there for a reason. Priestley wants us to pay attention, to look for those hidden connections.
Because he's not just trying to entertain us with a whodunit. He's inviting us to participate in a moral debate.
Right. It's like he's holding up a mirror to society and saying, look what happens when we prioritize personal gain over social responsibility. And that message is just as relevant today as it was back then, don't you think?
Absolutely. Maybe even more so. We're still grappling with the same issues of class inequality, social justice, personal accountability.
It's like that line at the end that always gives me chills, the one about fire and blood and anguish. It's a stark reminder that our choices have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us.
And those consequences can be devastating. We see it all around us, don't we? Wars, climate change, social unrest, all symptoms of a world that's lost its way.
So what's the answer? What does Priestley want us to do?
I think he offers a glimmer of hope, don't you? In those final moments, when the characters are confronted with the truth of their actions, we see a flicker of, maybe not redemption, but at least awareness.
Like they're finally starting to understand the weight of their choices.
Exactly. And that's what Priestley wants us to do, to wake up, to see the world with clear eyes, and to take responsibility for our role in it, to choose compassion over indifference.
Because in the end, we're all connected. What affects one affects us all.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message to carry with us as we navigate the complexities of the 21st century.
Powerful indeed. Well, there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into the world of An Inspector Calls. We've explored the characters, uncovered the symbolism, and maybe even learned a thing or two about ourselves along the way.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep those X-ray glasses handy. You never know when you might need them.
Until next time, happy reading.